Pakistan, a nuclear power with an Islamic government, anarchic, unstable, it's often irrational too. Kapil Kumareddy is none of those things. He's a journalist who writes about many issues, including Pakistan, and he joins us from a very cold London, England. Welcome to you.
Good to be with you, Michael.
Now, we've always assumed that Pakistan, at least intelligence agencies within Pakistan, are supporting the Taliban. That now seems to be beyond dispute.
It was always beyond dispute. I don't know why there was ever any debate about this. The Taliban is actually a creation of Pakistan. It was left behind by the Americans. The Americans armed a ragtag group of fighters to beat the Soviets in Afghanistan in the 80s. And then when they left, Pakistan, rather than dismantling them, used them to colonize Afghanistan. So I don't know where this debate actually emanates from, but the Taliban is really a creation of Pakistan's ISI.
Now, obviously, American, British intelligence knew this. So why were they, if you like, feeding denial or allowing denial in popular media?
It's because they needed Pakistan's cooperation to get to these people, because Pakistan really had the Rolodex. It had all the contacts of who the Taliban's top leadership is, and they needed to, in order to get to the Taliban, they needed Pakistan's cooperation. But Pakistan really played a double game. In a way, America was aligning itself with a power that was simultaneously a guardian and a sponsor of the Taliban. In a way, America was sponsoring the slaughter of its own citizens, of its own troops in Afghanistan.
Extraordinary. Now, let's just briefly, the history of this country, of Pakistan, because frankly, I don't believe that the South Asia should have been divided in such a way in the first place, but that's another argument. But we look at Jinnah, a sophisticated man, you know, he liked his whiskey, he wasn't a theocrat, he believed in a Muslim Pakistan, but welcoming other groups. There was a time when Jewish people, for example, were revered in Pakistan and so on. There wasn't much persecution of Christians. It's all changed now. Is this a viable state? Can it exist in the long term?
It will exist because its failure will cost us so much that people will have to work to ensure that it exists. And you talk about Pakistan's history. Pakistan was, you know, as you obviously know, it was created in 1947 as a homeland for India's Muslims, on the premise that in Pakistan no Muslim would be killed for being a Muslim. But it's now ended up as a state where Muslims are not killed, where Muslims are killed for not being good Muslims. Yeah. So there can't be a more terrible place for a Muslim to be in than Pakistan.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, and you're quite right, it's the epicenter of honor killings, for example. Even Muslims who...
Yes,
So go on.
Yeah, if you're a Muslim, or if you happen not to belong to the majority Sunni community, you really are a non-entity in Pakistan. If you happen to be an Ahmadi, you are constitutionally barred from calling yourself a Muslim. And in order to get a passport in Pakistan, not only must you affirm your faith in Islam, you must actually denounce the Ahmadis as non-Muslim heretics.
Quite incredible, quite incredible. Now, the juxtaposition with India, of course, is all the more poignant because India is one of the great economic success story of the past 20 years since it embraced the market. Pakistanis aren't fools. Surely that they can see this, they can see the Western world expanding, that they must wonder why, even with nuclear weapons, they're this pariah, this failure.
In fact, it's the opposite. The more India grows, the more India attains the superstardom, Pakistan's resentments grow with it. And its relevance, it is relevant so long as it attaches itself to India as a parasite. The moment it leaves India behind, no one cares about Pakistan. Is there a single thing that Pakistan produces that we are in awe of? No, there's nothing. Is there something Pakistan has that induces jealousy in us? Nothing. It's really a failed state, and we only look to it because it's a problem. Right. It just wants our attention.
Okay. I'm not going to mention cricket at this point. It's too sort of an inside story for Canadian audiences, but a slight bit of envy there. But how does the Arab world and the greater Islamic world look at Pakistan? Are they firmly allied, or do they use it just as a convenient place to attack the West?
Well, for Saudi Arabia, Pakistan is really a provider of, you know, in the future, if Iran were to acquire a nuclear weapon, Saudi Arabia will almost certainly buy itself a nuclear weapon from Pakistan off the shelf. And Pakistan tried in the past to sell nuclear technology to countries ranging from Syria to Iraq and to Libya. It certainly is an ally of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has certainly played a very, very corrosive role in Pakistan. It helped Pakistan become what it is. So yeah, there is an alliance, but it's a very corrosive alliance.
Mm. Economically, can it in any way, is there any potential for Pakistan becoming economically viable?
Yes, in fact, Pakistan has fewer regulations than India. And I wrote an article about this some years ago. Pakistan, if there wasn't a security problem, Pakistan could actually be the Singapore of South Asia rather than descending into becoming the Somalia of South Asia. It really has a group of entrepreneurs. It has an entrepreneurial class. It has a middle class that's very sophisticated, that's very fluent in English, that, you know, educated in Western universities, eager to do business, eager to get out of this crisis, but it's really being held back by its armed forces and its governing elite.
Mm-hmm. There was a time, this is where I become particularly pessimistic, the intellectual class in Pakistan was large. The extremists were in the minority. That seems, though, I really believe that seems to be reversed now, that the shrinking of the middle class, of the intellectual class, of the class reaching out to the West, if that carries on, there can only be disaster.
Well, the intellectual class of Pakistan, rather than opposing what was happening at home, chose to take up very convenient causes, such as, you know, talking against Zionism in Israel. It became very internationalist, talking about racism in America, rather than looking at Pakistan's own destruction at the hands of its governing elite. So the intellectual class really seceded from its duty in Pakistan. There is a lively press in Pakistan, there is a lively class of intellectuals in Pakistan, but I don't think they can ever redeem the idea of Pakistan as imagined by its founding father.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Michael. Good to be with you.